Exceli porta, suensiud ave, Gabrielis ore, funda nos in pace, mutans et nomen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I'm the president of Ubiquity University, and I want to welcome you to this community call. I want to note that it is Mother's Day in the United States and in many countries around the world. So I just want to express my special love and appreciation to all the mothers that are out there, and both in this call and all of our mothers everywhere. If it wasn't for our mothers, none of us would be here. So just like if it wasn't for Mother Earth, none of us would be here. So I just want to acknowledge and deeply appreciate our mothers and to acknowledge Claire in particular today, who's the mother of our two sons. It's such a wonderful thing to be part of the stream of life. So to all the mothers, I just want to extend deep, humble appreciation and love. I also want to note that just this past week, it was a full moon, and it was the celebration of Buddha's birthday and his enlightenment and his passing. The full moon in May is always such a vibrant time, even in a time of pandemic. I've been in Amsterdam in lockdown, as I know all of you, wherever you are, but you can literally feel the eros of spring. And so I just want to greet you in the fertility of spring on Mother's Day. And now turn it over to Apila, as we always do, to invoke our session today. So thank you all for joining. Apila.
Good morning. Happy Mother's Day. I'm lighting this cedar from Chartres to purify and cleanse. We offer our hearts, our minds, and our lives, our very breath, to this movement called life, to this form called Mother Earth, through which we enter the three-dimensional reality with the love of our own mothers and fathers as well. As we step foot in the doorway of the cathedral, virtual and in our own hearts and loves, and remembering fully the veil of the Virgin that resides within the Cathedral of Chartres, we come into this dawn, this day, this new life. We turn and greet the sun. Open our hearts, open our minds to all the day has to offer. In the ancient days, the Gaul people who first came to this hill to offer their prayers, to connect with the star beings, the gods, and join with Mother Earth through the sacred tree of life. With these ancient beings in mind, we also acknowledge our grandmother, the moon, and we give thanks for the remembrance of a people whose day began at night in the darkness of the womb. Today, we look for a moment and contemplate with each other the richness, the fecundity, the darkness of Mary Magdalene, the Black Madonna, and the womb from which we all come. Mama, oh no. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Apila. The womb from which we all come. That's a beautiful, beautiful image for today. It's my pleasure now to introduce you to Kayleen Asbo. As you all know, we've been under the magnetic pull of the pandemic, turning all of our summer courses into virtual courses, which is the first time we've ever done that. For 15 years, we've been going to Chartres in person, as most of you know, and it became impossible to do that this year for all the reasons you know and we've discussed. So we needed to go virtual. And it seemed plausible that we could turn Grammatica and Madonna Rising and our doctoral writing course into virtual courses, but it didn't seem at first conceivable that we could do it for the pilgrimages. We planned the pilgrimages down to the caves of the Dordogne and to the sites associated with Mary Magdalene. And then Claire discovered Kayleen. And I have to tell you, as someone who's been dealing with faculty for many, many years, I've been at the helm of this university since 2005. So this is the 15th anniversary of my tenure. I've dealt with many faculty, but there have been few that have been as exciting and as dynamic and as erudite and learned and passionate about what she does as Kayleen Asbo. And it took us, I think, a single conversation, Kayleen, to realize that not only could you develop 2 virtual pilgrimages, but you would do it in a way that would be equally exciting and empowering and invigorating in every way as what we were planning to do in person. So we thought that this would be an ideal time to introduce you to Kayleen and for her to just speak for the next 20, 25 minutes or so about what she has planned. And as you know, you can sign up for everything on our website. And then when she finishes, we're going to turn it back over to Apila. As you all know, over the last month, we've been every Sunday immersing ourselves in the most extraordinary dreams that I think have come out of our Chartres Academy. And it was a beautiful offering by Apila and her whole team. So she's going to summarize a bit and then introduce us to her team, all the people in the background that do all the work while you're sharing your dream. They're recording it in an amazing way. So Kayleen, I want to welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jim. And I love that you're talking with this idea about a dream first, because it was really through my own dream life that I was led to France to pursue what has become my obsession and passion for the past 20 years, as I have followed what I would call followed Ariadne's thread throughout history to weave together things that seemed like they had nothing to do with one another. It was actually from the womb of my own dream life that images came to arise. And in response to those, I obsessively went to France again and again and again and found the most extraordinary set of stories. And I am thrilled to be sharing them with the Ubiquity community this summer and today to introduce you to some of those. So I want to just touch on the archetype of pilgrimage and what it is to be a pilgrim, because in so many ways, even though we're in a place of confinement, the archetype of the pilgrim as somehow intimately connected with the archetype of the hermit. Those two come together. And I know for myself that my own beginning of wanting to go on pilgrimage to to have this fire of encounter, of a transformative journey woven with story, was first awakened within me when I was a high school student and I was reading Chaucer, and that May is the month of pilgrimage. And Chaucer was a contemporary of Julian of Norwich. And so those two things co-arose, this idea of the Canterbury Tales storytelling and pilgrimage, and Julian of Norwich, the enclosed anchorite hermit. And the fact that that co-arising happened, I think, has a lot of significance for us in our own time. One of the things that I'm most passionate about is discovering the hidden threads that connect things that seem like they're completely unrelated. So this was to be the month also in which the Tour de France began. But one of the little known pieces of history is that the Tour de France was not originally a bicycle race. Instead, it was actually a medieval pilgrimage to walk through this trail, the Pilgrim Trail that went from Vézelay in Burgundy down to La Sainte-Baume. And it was the Magdalen Trail. And those of you who are fans of the great Scottish land artist Andy Goldsworthy and his amazing film Rivers and Tides, which I recommend to you all, many of the images that you see in that film are actually land installations on the sacred medieval trail, the Trail of Time, it's called, in the Haute-Provence. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been moved by tears from the film to actually go to that site and find the little plaques, almost like breadcrumbs on a trail, that I pieced together one piece after another in different hostels and different libraries to discover that this trail was dedicated to Mary Magdalene. And I slept inside that Magdalene chapel that you saw in the previous image. And inside, this is the sculpture, the creation that Andy Goldsworthy has created, which for me evokes both the tomb and the womb and the chrysalis, all images that have such archetypal resonance with us right now. So this Magdalene Pilgrim Trail of the Haute-Provence is extraordinarily beautiful. And over the past 15 years, I have gone again and again and again to hike it, to monasteries, to research and to collect images of this place. It ends in La Sainte-Baume in Provence, and this was the mythical home of Mary Magdalene, where legends from the early centuries of Christianity say that she arrived and she retired here for her own hermit life for the last 30 years. What you see in the image before you is down below is the forest of Artemis, and above that horizon line is the monastery that is built around the caves where she dwelt. And at the very top, what you see is a commemoration of another little chapel where she was said to have been lifted by the songs of the angels and fed with the manna of heaven. As you walk through this forest, it was a forest that was dedicated to the Greek goddess Artemis for 700 years BC. And it is a place of wonder. There are bird sounds, and there's the sounds of water and dew dripping from the trees, but nothing else. The water, the birds, the trees whispering in the wind, and it is a journey of profound blessing that leads up here then to this monastery that was established in the year 415. It was here that Magdalene was said to have spent her life in contemplation and prayer. And as you enter into this sanctuary, you feel like you are traveling across time. It's one of those wonderlands. I feel like Chartres the same way. It's like a portal to Kairos rather than Chronos. And when you enter into that grotto, time stands still. This is the statue of Magdalene where votives are lit every day, where prayers are sung, where you can hear the echo of the monastic songs drifting throughout the centuries. And you feel this sense of profound union with the stepping stones of history. It's the very cave that Catherine of Siena walked to as a young woman before she went and confronted the Pope in Avignon. It was a place that year after year, century after century, mystics and artists and philosophers and writers and craftsmen and artisans and simple pilgrims would arrive, opening their hearts, pouring forth their devotion here to connect with the echoes of the ancient past. And as we'll discover on the Magdalene pilgrimage, it's a place that is completely woven with history. It was the place that the monks of Lorenz Abbey would journey to on foot every year for the feast day of Mary Magdalene on July 22nd. And surprisingly, this is the monastery in France where St. Patrick became a monk. And it was what he learned from the Magdalenian tradition, from the Cassionite tradition, from this place here at Lorenz Abbey that he took with him to the British Isles, first to Glastonbury and then to Ireland, to unfold a spiritual lineage and branches. So on this journey, we're going to be weaving together these stories of these great mystics and artists and seekers throughout time, and we will be weaving them together with Gregorian chant and song. We'll encounter the art and the architecture, the myths and the legends, but we'll also dive deep into the spiritual practices. As someone who has been deeply influenced by Benedictine spirituality myself for over 30 years, I'll introduce to you some of the Gregorian chants and chants from France and these particular monasteries. And we'll explore the spiritual traditions of Lectio Divina and Visio Divina as well. We'll encounter one of my amazing places. This is another place that came to me really through a dream and was built through a dream. I will share the extraordinary story of the French Orthodox monastery of Saint-Michel-du-Var, which is built along the blueprints of sacred geometry that comes from Bernard of Clairvaux, who had such a role to play in Chartres with the Knights Templar. And here at Saint-Michel-du-Var, this very monastery, the skeleton of it is based on Tournai Abbey, one of the great Cistercian monasteries. But when you go inside, you feel a sense of wonder, as we're going to see that from the echoes of this past, there's extraordinary new life and frescoes that have been created through dreams. So we'll be starting, we'll have our Magdalene pilgrimage in August, but before then we're actually going to go to another site that was along the ancient Santiago Compostela, or the Chemin de Saint-Jacques, the pilgrim paths in France that lead to Santiago Compostela in Spain. And here as we travel, we're going to encounter the great pilgrim songs that were collected through the Middle Ages. We're going to encounter the Cantigas de Santa Maria, these marvelous pilgrim songs of devotion to the Divine Feminine that were collected by Alfonso X and were sung throughout France to Spain in this journey. Songs like Santa Maria Strellado Dia, mostra-nos via, pereira nos guia. I'm going to have music of Catherine Breslowski, one of my beloved friends, who's recorded her albums in France to accompany us on this pilgrim path. Here's the coquille, or the scallop shells that are outside Chartres, telling you how far it is. And if you were to walk from Chartres to Compostela, you would actually pass along the Dordogne region, this cradle of time, this cradle of civilization. And here, buried, hidden in the shadows, are also echoes of Magdalene. This is the troglodyte village of La Madeleine, and this is one of those places of spiritual archaeology, because on the very top is a Renaissance chateau, and if you go down to the next layer, what you see here is this medieval village with a chapel dedicated to Mary Magdalene. And then on the very bottom layer of this troglodyte village, alongside the meandering Vézère River, what you find were the remains of the most excellent flowering of the artistic culture of the Cro-Magnon civilization. And so we have here images that I've collected both from the museum and from the source of La Madeleine that draws us into this womb, this mothering place, this birthplace of artistic creativity and ritual. Rituals that both honored motherhood and death, and we're going to talk about those along the way. This is the incredible bison. Look at
Looks like Kylene froze.
cathedral.
Can you confirm? Ah, there you're back, Kylene. You just froze up for a second. Maybe you can start from the top of that sentence or paragraph so we
Yeah,
can get back to you?
absolutely.
Thank you.
So the image that you see before you is the initiation caves that were done for the rituals of the sacred feminine in a cave called Le Pachemel in the Dordogne. And it was here because of a dream that when my own daughter was 12 years old, I brought her on a coming-of-age pilgrimage that began in Chartres Cathedral at the Labyrinth and went through these caves of initiation, of female initiation. We're going to be talking about those. We'll go next to Rocamadour and we'll talk about the medieval tradition of the Black Madonnas, encountering both the images that are all throughout southern France. There are over 330 images of Black Madonnas that have been recovered. We'll talk about that tradition and where they come from, and also the art and the music that they've inspired across the centuries. Because it was here that composers like Olivier Messiaen and Francois Poulenc had profound mystical experiences, and they wove into their music the devotions, the litanies for the Black Madonna with birdsong. We'll encounter as well the troubadour castles. This was one that belonged to Richard the Lion-Hearted, who was the son of Eleanor of Aquitaine, who was herself the granddaughter of the world's first troubadour in France. And we're going to talk about that tradition of courtly love, of poetry, of music, and of the dedication to the feminine in this culture. And then we'll go to this magical village of Saint-Léon-sur-Vézère, where there is a Black Madonna, and along this beautiful meandering river, we'll encounter the stories of the Knights Templar and their devotions to these places. We're going to talk a little bit about sacred geometry and architecture and the mystical places here that were guarded and the tragedies that unfolded. It's a town not far from here where the Knights Templar were imprisoned in Dôme. We'll make reference to that tragedy, but more, we're going to celebrate the beauty and the history of nobility and chivalry. So we'll be looking then at the Dordogne as we go through this amazing journey. And then in July, I'm also going to be part of a faculty at Chartres Cathedral. I'm so excited to be joining Benafshe and others as we talk about Madonna Rising. And I know that she has a feast planned for all of you in which we're going to talk about art and music and architecture. We'll talk about the Black Madonnas here. This is the one Notre-Dame sous terre. And then the exquisite window, that beautiful Our Lady of Beautiful Glass, the magical blue window here of devotion, and of course the labyrinth. The part that I'll be sharing here is the part that stretches to mothers and grandmothers, for it was underneath this window, the North Rose window, which was commissioned by Blanche of Castile, as Chartres was rising as a phoenix from the ashes. And I'll talk about how this is her sense of legacy, that the Black Madonna here that you see holding Mary is related to her childhood in Spain, growing up on the pilgrim path of Santiago Compostela. And the other image that you see is the image that she holds for the hope of her future, of her son, who becomes King Louis, later Saint Louis, and that it is his image that she was inscribing to grow into the image of King David, to pen the Psalms, that this is her nod to her family legacy of poetry and of devotion, of mystical devotion. It was under this window that I lit candles with my own daughter as she was coming of age. Before we did the labyrinth walk, we lit candles for our ancestors, and I named the mothers, my mother Oran, my grandmother Evelyn and Astrid. And after few generations, I had to stop. I didn't know their names, and so I said, and for all of the unknown grandmothers whose names we don't know. And it was only last year that I discovered, after extensive genealogical research, that I was lighting those candles with my daughter underneath the window of Blanche of Castile, who is in fact one of my great-grandmothers. So that's part of the story I'll be sharing here before she did the labyrinth walk. And there's my daughter in blue sitting, waiting to go into the labyrinth. She was the maiden in the labyrinth walk to Marion Woodman's crone, and I was the mother on this very special Veritas pilgrimage that we did for her, that coincided with Emma's coming of age. So I hope you can join me. We'll be in the footsteps of Mary Magdalene, a virtual pilgrimage through Provence. These images that were actually taken by my daughter at the age of 24 now, when we led a pilgrim group here as we go to the caves of Mary Magdalene, through the forest of Artemis, to the Trail of Time, where Andy Goldsworthy has created all of these magnificent land art objects. We'll also have a watch party of Rivers and Tides to talk about that magnificent film. We'll go to Saint Michel du Var, where I'll talk about the iconography that I first saw in my dream 3 years before I arrived. This image of Mary Magdalene with her red cloak of compassion stretching out across the centuries. And underneath that cloak, the mystics of all time, including Hildegard of Bingen, Julian of Norwich, whose feast day was yesterday, St. Francis of Assisi, on and on and on, this mystical red thread like Ariadne's thread in the labyrinth. We'll go to Lorenz Abbey, where St. Patrick became a monk. We'll go to Tournai Abbey, where Bernard of Clairvaux established his monastery, and talk and learn about the Salve Regina and sing that together. And I hope that you will join me then on the Dordogne, in Chartres, or in Provence as we walk in pilgrimage. It's, of course, a journey that I wish I could share with you in person live, but we will get as close as we can through hundreds and hundreds of images of stories. I have over 1,700 pictures I have collected over these past 15 years, and some footage shot by drone last year, and videotapes of singing in Tournai Abbey with those perfect acoustics. And then we'll explore spiritual practices and have time for fellowship and chanting. We'll begin with opening invocations and prayers I've collected throughout these different monasteries. More than anything, I hope it'll be a journey that will connect you to your deepest roots, in the words of Mary Magdalene, the root of goodness that we have inside of us that is our truest essence. So I hope you'll join me for story, song, myth, image, celebration, and bringing the depth of these stories in through our own hearts to bear fruit for our hungry world. Because it is true in so many ways that the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, as Proust said, but in having new eyes. And in that spirit, then, I hope you will come with me on a voyage of discovery throughout France, through the Trail of Time, to come even deeper into the depth of your own heart. So thank you so much, Jim, for inviting me into Ubiquity. And I want to say as well that I'm excited to be also leading the Great Books discussion in July, where we'll be talking about the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. And for those of you who don't know this text, it's a fascinating text. It's said to be the very document that Mary Magdalene brought with her to Provence after she came from Alexandria in Greece. And she brought this document with her. It's considered by some people sort of the ur-text for the Gospel of John. And in fact, about 80% of it is very much the Gospel of John, with a few significant differences, woven through with also parts that we see in Gospel of Thomas and the complete text of Gospel of Mary. Many of you might know that the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is missing critical pages, and the Gospel of the Beloved Companion fills this in. So I have to tell one little story before I close about my last pilgrimage to France and Provence. After I had led pilgrims last summer, I took them to the caves of Mary Magdalene, and we were going to all the places that I'm going to do with Ubiquity's pilgrimage. And then I went to the Pyrenees, and it was my third time going to Montségur and to the places of the Cathar castles and going to the Benedictine monasteries there. And I arrived rather magically they were getting their Black Madonna ready with flowers, and I walked into this tiny chapel, and my favorite piece of music, Stella Splendens, was playing. This is a pilgrim song from Spain. And I walked in, and the woman who was tending and preparing the Black Madonna with all of these roses, hundreds of roses, said to me, "Oh, there's another chapel you must find." And so on my last day in the Pyrenees, I went there and it was a rainy, misty day, and I went and I drove and I found this obscure chapel that was in a cave. And I went in and I went up to the upper level and I began to sing. I had this song that came to me, and it first came to me in the caves of Mary Magdalene, so I began to sing. And it's a song dedicated to Mary Magdalene, which I'll share in our pilgrimage. And I walked down and I saw this woman who was in deep meditation, and I looked at her and I just knew that it was Jean de Quillan, who was the translator of the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, because I had been in a workshop with her a few years ago. And I came out of that chapel, and about 20 minutes later she came out and she looked at me and I said, "You're Jean de Quillan, aren't you?" And she said, "Yes, and you are Kayleen Asbo." And it was one of these extraordinary meetings. So it somehow feels, as I was taking all of these images for this virtual pilgrimage, which I wanted to turn into a film anyway, how serendipitous it is that it feels like all of this is part of some divine pattern, some unfolding in some way that is so mysterious to me. That my dreams from the past and this book that you've invited me to lead and this pilgrimage that I hope I get to share with the Chartres community all comes from this amazing place of the imagination, and I can't wait to share it with you. So thank you so much for inviting me on this call and inviting me into this community, Jim, and just would love to turn it over to you now if you have any questions, or if we want to say anything else that needs to be said for our community listening in.
Thank you, Kayleen. As you can all see, Kayleen is an intellectual and philosophical, historical force of nature. and so, and this was only in 20 minutes, so you can imagine what it's going to be like to be with her over a series of days. And just as a reminder, we're convening our virtual courses at the same time of the calendar. So the dissertation writing will be right at the end of June, virtual Grammatica between the 5th of July to the 11th of July, and then following that will be the first virtual pilgrimage, and then Madonna Rising and the second pilgrimage. So the dates of the calendar stay the same, but you'll be able to enjoy it from your living room or wherever you want to enjoy it from. And it's an experiment for us, but I can't think of anybody, excuse me, better qualified and more magnetically inviting than Kayleen. So Kayleen, I just really want to thank you. And if anybody has any questions, you can. I didn't note any in the chat box, but if you have any questions, maybe we can take them up a little bit later. I'll turn it now over to Apila. So we'll do the dreams for a bit, and then if anybody has any questions for Kayleen, we'll circle back to Kayleen before we finish the call. Thank you, Kayleen, very, very much. Apila.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. Thank you, Kayleen. It was wonderful to hear what you had to say. And interestingly enough, my work with the university began because of a visitation experience in the south of France, a visitation of Mary Magdalene. And that dream led to the first experience that the university organized under Jim's leadership, and that was a Mary Magdalene Black Madonna tour. So, and on that tour came the idea for the creation of the Wisdom School, which we are now in. And subsequently, we've had 14 years on top of the first year of pilgrimages to Chartres, and it's become the center of the university and of our lives' work. Mine, Jim's, Claire's, many other people. So within that tradition and coming to the hill of Chartres, I found also something of my own ancestry. I'm Oneata'aga Oneida Indian. I know my culture, and I'm also nearly half French, which I didn't know up until we started going to France. And from the experience of going to Chartres and having visited the Mary Magdalene sites, this process of working with dreams, which became a ceremony, began to show itself, and it took years. And it's actually quite demanding. And why it's so demanding is that it bridges time. Just as the pilgrimage, we were going, finding this ceremony of dream work, which goes all the way back to the ancient Gauls that first came to this site, the sacred hill of Chartres. Recovering that, remembering it, was a long process. It took many years. And today I'd like to share a bit of that process by introducing our team members. So how the very beginning of dream work happened when people would catch me in the hallway. I've always done the invocations, and maybe because of that, people felt that I would be a person who would listen to dreams, and participants would catch me in the hallway and ask me to listen to a dream of theirs. And eventually Jim and I had a conversation, and it led to an established time for dealing with the dream work. We sat in a circle, we prayed, and we listened. We don't analyze dreams. What we're looking for is, as David Bohm, the physicist, would have said, the implicate order. What are the messages from that site coming through the entire group of participants for us today? In the ancient days, the shamans, the druids, would climb the cosmic tree, the ancient oaks that were astride the hill of Chartres, the temple, the original temple, climb that tree, ascend the tree to the North Star, and return with wisdom, with healing, with guidance. And that wisdom, knowledge, and guidance, or seed of life, would impregnate the earth, impregnate our hearts and our minds and dreams. So this team has been through just a rigorous spiritual training. And today I'd like to honor them by giving them each very humble, although very talented within their fields. I want to acknowledge them, and also for you, the participants who share your dreams, to know what happens to your dreams once you do share them. And our week 4 film will be ready this week, and next Sunday we will have a call where we can do a question and answer and a discussion of what all 4 of the week's dreams were about. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first, one other thing, Timothy Bramley, who is a Maori traditional healer. He's a chanter, Yale-trained opera singer. He will not be able to be with us today. He's in New Zealand, and he's in the middle of moving house. So, but he will be with us next week. So anyway, with that, let me see. I'd like to ask Kate, who's our glypher, to share 2 or 3 minutes of her role within the Dream Team.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Kayleen, for your extraordinary talk. I think one of the most exciting things about listening to people's dreams in Chartres is to notice how, at the same time, miraculous, but also repeated these visitations of the Black Madonna and all these different symbols, having worked with the Dream Team and with Apila, listening to the dreams for 7 years, I am so moved by really what is such generosity and intimacy when people come down in the morning and share what they've been dreaming. Drawing is not actually something I'm particularly good at, but it feels like part of the process of bringing up the collective dream into visibility and into memory. And in some sense, all this language, the medieval symbolic language, the language of imagery that runs through Siena and the cathedral at Chartres, is alive in our dream space. So when we put them on the paper, and these images of the Black Madonna and the animals start to arise, all sharing the same piece of paper, and then we go into the cathedral and we see the same sort of sea of archetypal imagery, there is a palpable feeling of participating, of creatively participating in something so ancient. And it always takes my breath away. Even speaking about it now, I feel so full of energy, and I can almost smell roses. There's something about the feeling of being at Chartres. And I've noticed we've been doing this online dream work across the internet through this time of lockdown. And the same connective threads and imagery is rising up through that, which shouldn't be really surprising, I guess, because dreams are not bounded by location. So I have this hope that during the meeting in the summertime, the fact that we're all not together, in some way doing the dream work is going to help us, as well as singing and moving, to turn up in a connected way together. I think there's one thing that Apila asked me to talk about, something I was truly startled at, and it has to be that over the years, the same dream about the Chartrian labyrinth was dreamed again and again and again. And that was a dream after walking the labyrinth, that the labyrinth itself was opening up and unlocking and merging with the whole of the town of Chartres and really the whole of the earth. So there's this extraordinary sense that that ancient practice of walking the labyrinth is really registered in the inner realms, and it's way below words, and it brings together, we've walked that labyrinth, bringing together all our different histories and experiences, but the practice of walking the labyrinth seems to have this kind of repeated effect on people again and again. And that for me is so exciting. It takes us beyond words, and there's a concept of the language of the birds, which has intrigued me through the whole of my life, and I've dedicated so many of my art projects to it. It's in this place of ceremony and learning together, and also sharing our dreams and creativity together, that I really feel what that language of birds, that expression of meaning making beyond particular culture or time might be. And I'm just so extraordinarily grateful and honored to be part of that process with you all. Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley Lloyd. I live in Maryland, just north of Washington, D.C., and I've had the privilege of serving as a glypher in the dream ceremonies in Chartres for several years. And my role there is to organize the pens and pencils and various colors, and as the dreamers share their dreams, I try to capture them in images. So I draw whatever I'm hearing. And at first, it seemed like I wasn't doing a good job. These are only stick figures. I don't know what value I'm adding. And Apila would constantly remind that it's just coming through, and it's very helpful. What the glyphs allow the team to put together the pieces to see the big picture and experience the collective. And early on, I wanted to draw lines between each of the dreamers' dreams so you could see who dreamed which dream. And I was told, no, we don't put the lines there. We write them all, we draw all the dreams out on one piece of paper. And for me, that's been a divine experience to see how collective the story is. And as it unfolds, we're each a piece of the fabric. It's opened up my eyes to honor my dreams. I've been a dreamer since I can remember, and it's just been a great honor and privilege to offer my little stick figures to the process. And it's been a wonderful month to share with each of you who've participated as we've done this collectively online. And so I offer that with gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Beth, are you there? I'm not hearing anything. She should be on. Georg, can you hear me?
Yes, she was there and she's in the call, but she's not responding. She's made a panelist.
Well, then we can, I don't know where I'll text her in the meanwhile. Veronica, are you ready? Maybe you can go and we'll pick up, maybe Beth is having problems with her internet.
Hello, Pilar. Hello, everybody. My name is Veronica Kutzer. I live in Pretoria in South Africa. And I also had a recurring dream over many, many years of a place that I could see in my dream. And in 2009, I actually made an artwork of that dream and of that place that I saw. And the moment I've done the artwork, I actually really wanted to go there. And it was very far out of my league or where I am and my life. But I had this yearning to travel to Chartres and just to be there. So in it's 8 years ago, I actually, in the middle of winter, went on my own to Chartres. So there's no garden, there's no flowers, there's no roses. It is grey and dull. But the moment I stepped off that train, I knew I was home. It was just incredible. I still get very emotional just thinking of that moment. And so Chartres actually really revealed itself to me through these dreams. And that first artwork actually called it the Labyrinth. But before that, I haven't even knew what it was. And now, for the last 7 years, I have been in Chartres doing the dream work with the dream team in Apila. And it is absolutely amazing for me to realize that I dreamed myself to Chartres, and that I'm now doing artworks of people's dreams that are being dreamed in Chartres. And so it's just profound for me. And the people I've met and the friendships I've made and the things that I've learned was just something that I never imagined would be possible for me. And what I do in the process is I actually photograph people while they tell their dreams. And I really feel very honored that people allow me to do that, because when you tell your dream, you're not really, you are back in the dream. So people sort of, they lost themselves in the dream again. And the facial expressions and the expressions of the hands, it's just magnificent for me as a photographer to photograph that. There's no posing. There's no trying to put on a nice face. It is so real and so authentic. And it's wonderful for me to capture that. And then afterwards, I will photograph those beautiful pictures and what Ashley referred to as a little stick men, and also Kate's drawings. I'll photograph them, and then I will after Attila and Bess and the rest of the team got the narrative, I will start making pictures of a day's dream, everybody's dream of the day. And then I will, in the end of the week, I will make one image that tells the story of the week's dream. And it's really been absolutely wonderful. I actually really feel that everything I've done in my life actually brought me to this moment. And especially this 4 weeks in this pandemic to do the dream walk with you guys. So I'm humbled and I feel honored and I'm extremely grateful. So thank you for
it. Thank you, Veronica. Beth, can we hear you now?
I hope so. Is that working
Yes.
now?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. And my name is Beth, and I'm Pict, Celt, Gaul, and Micmac. And a little bit about, I have an idiot savant ability to type very fast. So I've been scribing the dreams that have been coming through, and I've been doing this for 8 years with Apila, starting actually in South Africa, which my dreams led me to the White Lions in South Africa 8 years ago. So we started, it was part of an academy of, and we were doing White Lion dreaming. And then I ended up in Chartres doing the same work with Apila with the Chartrian dreams. And what's evolved over this time, over the 8 years of doing this work with Apila, has been, I've realized part of my role is as the storyteller, like how to take all of these dreams and work closely with Apila and the rest of the team, and how to bring these dreams together into a narrative. What's trying to come through? What are the ancestors and what are these sacred sites trying to share with us? And it's been absolutely incredible, personally, professionally, in every way. It's impacted my life. Just seeing what's emerging and seeing what's coming through, and what it's almost like an imperative. And I was talking to Apila last week about it with this pandemic dreaming. What I've noticed is that it's how all consuming it is. It's just getting immersed in these dreams and in the narrative, and trying to do them justice and honoring these dreams. And that's been a big, I don't even know how to describe it. It's been life-changing, and I'm grateful to the dreamers for sharing their dreams. I'm grateful to Wisdom for having the dream sessions every year, and to the dream team. So thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Doing pretty well on our time, I think. By the way, our team is, Veronica's in South Africa, Beth is in Baltimore, and here's Alejandra in Mexico. So our team is scattered around the world.
Hello, my name is Alejandra, and yes, I was born in Mexico, but I'm half European. I have European ancestry. I thought I was only German, but thank you to Apela and all the team, I started to connect with my French Occitan ancestry, and it has been really, really interesting and grateful. And well, my role is like putting together like all the storyline in a presentation slideshow to show all like all the dreams, how all the dreams are connected, and explore like a language that goes beyond words. It has taught me a lot about the collective collaboration and this collective dreaming. The power of the collective collaboration has been really important for my daily life, and finding like a dream family we can speak the same language. I'm really grateful for that. Honoring our dreams and becoming conscious of that time, that it's 1/3 of our lives, is very magical, and I'm very grateful to be part of this beautiful team. And thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Alejandra. And last is Matthew Tucker, sound engineer. Matt, you there?
I am. Hello. Thank you so much for having me on this call. I'm Matthew Tucker, and I'm an audio engineer, and I help record the dreams as well as create soundscapes and soundtracks for the dream productions. I'm reminded by Kate's The Language of the Birds. There was a moment at the end of 2018 when I was recording Timothy, Anne, and Ruth, and we were in this Saint Etienne room, I think, and Timothy was chanting with his Shruti box, Anne was with her crystal bowls, Ruth with her singing and her flute, and as they were all kind of riffing and playing off of each other, a bird came in and sat on the windowsill and became the fourth member of the band. And to be there present in the moment and luckily recording, it was that soundtrack that I ended up using for these dream productions week to week as the background music. And I just love how all of these convergences of nature and reality and dreams and the thunderstorms of 2018 and how Tyrannus came into the dreams. I've had so many outstanding, profound experiences while at Chartres, and I'm just so honored and thankful to be a part of all of it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
And happy Mother's Day.
Oh, yes. So the thing is, at the end of Chartres, well, first of all, let me summarize. So when you share your dream, Beth is typing, and Ashley and Kate are glyphing, and they do different styles of glyphing. Ashley glyphs, as she said, it's her stick figures. It's more than that, but it allows us to see the sweep of all the dreams on one or two huge sheets of paper. And Kate is doing more of an artistic rendering of the dreams. It's turned out to be an art form in its own self. And as we sit in the circle, Timothy opens us with a chant. I say a prayer, and Matt is recording things. And while people are sharing dreams, Veronica's running all over the hill of Chartres, taking pictures that are illustrating points within the dreams that we hear is significant. And Matt is working on the soundscape. And we take dreams Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and each day we meet as a team to try to put the story together. And on day one, it's easy. Maybe there's 20 dreams, and you can see what the narrative is you can see it fairly readily. There's only a few themes to deal with. The challenge is Tuesday may change how we understood things on Monday, and so forth and so on. Thursday night, we have to start getting our presentation together to reflect back to the group. So it's really a crucible where we're trying, and the extra added pressure is we even take dreams on Friday, and we're going to show this production not only of a slideshow, which Alejandra is putting together, and a narrative that Beth and I are working on, and Veronica with her pictures, and Matt with his sound, and Timothy with making his chants and music for it. We've got all these pieces at play, right? And then it hits Alejandra, and she's trying to put all of this together. By Thursday night around 10 o'clock, that's when the dark stuff starts to show up. One year, Matt lost his whole entire soundtrack. Another time, Veronica's lost all of her images, and that's sort of our creative meltdown time. And somehow, miraculously, by Friday night, we're ready to share the presentation of the messages that we've seen coming out from the dreams. And surprisingly to all of us, and magnificently, Matt mentioned Tyrannus, which is the Gaul spirit of thunder and lightning and storms. And 2018, we couldn't ignore the effect. People were dreaming about the storms that were happening in reality. And when Tyrannus comes back, it's the gods returning. And we have been witnessing the return of the ancient Gaul spirits and our recognition of them, which is just miraculous. But one particular troublesome year with Tyrannus, before we could recognize that the gods are returning, everything that could go wrong with technology did. It was just hell, right? So when we went to do the show, the slideshow kept sticking and it would freeze again and again and again. And Kate's going crazy, pulling her hair out, trying to get it to work. And then when it was time, Matt had recorded the thunder and lightning. We laughed and laughed afterwards because every time it would stick would be, Matt, cue the thunder. So sometimes I feel like our dream productions is a bit like a Muppet show, you know, with roof caving in and walls falling and all that sort of thing. But on a good day, it's magnificent. In fact, it's always magnificent, even when it's falling apart, because falling apart, by sticking with it, by loving it and being loved by it, it's transformative. So we hope to see you next week at the regular time, and we will send out week 4 before that so you can preview it, and we will also tell you how to get more dream journals, Chartres dream journals, to continue your practice. And we will also have soundtracks that you can listen to that Matt and Timothy have produced, as well as the images that Veronica produces for individual dreamers as well as for our collective. And we'll all be together again. So thank you again and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Apila, and thank you, Dream Team. What an extraordinary work that you do. It is amazing. It is inspirational at the deepest level, because it's the earth and the firmaments dreaming through us, and the profundity of what's been channeled through this community is quite profound, and it deepens with every passing year. So I just want to acknowledge your leadership, Apila. Apila's been, in some ways, the mother of us all. She helped birth me into the university. She helped birth the Chartres Academy. She helped birth the dream. So Apila, on Mother's Day, I want to especially acknowledge your maternal guidance over the years that we have known each other. It's been quite profound. And Kayleen, I just want to acknowledge your mastery today and the excitement that I feel for the virtual pilgrimages that are coming up under your tutelage. They are going to be very, very exciting. I can hardly wait. So thank you, everyone. Happy Mother's Day. And we'll have the next dream session next Sunday. And then the second Sunday of June, we'll meet again for a final summary and review of everything that's going to be happening over the courses, with a special note on Madonna Rising. So thank you, and God bless you. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you.